Hussein is the lantern of guidance and the ship to salvation, and the ship to salvation. الحسين مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Once again to our respected and dear viewers, once again I would like to welcome you on Lantern of Light's Muharram podcast and some spiritual doses that we can take from these Ayyam-e-Aza. I would like to extend my heartiest condolences to each one of you during these Ayyam-e-Aza, and especially to Imam al-Mahdi Ajlallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, on the tragedies that befell in Karbala on Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq and the barakah to follow in the footsteps of a truly Husseini lifestyle, so we can follow it and we can make our Imam, especially the Imam of our time today, very pleased and happy with us. So every day we bring into you some impactful and reflective and insightful discussions. And once again today, we bring to you that how can I strengthen my faith during this Muharram with all the current scenarios that we've been witnessing. In fact, from a very long time. It's been almost 2.5 years now, and this Muharram feels a lot more heavier, a lot more overwhelming. It's filled with a lot more emotions, and so one begins to ask that how can I perfect myself more? What improvements should I bring in? How can I strengthen my faith more during these unprecedented times? So looking into these aspects, we will be having a deep conversation on how can we personally connect and reflect with the events of Karbala. What lessons can we derive from them? In what ways can one cultivate a deeper sense of empathy and compassion for Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his companions, and a lot more. But before moving on to our conversation, I would like to request each one of you and encourage you to hit the subscribe button and make sure to like our YouTube channel and especially today's podcast. And please keep sharing it to as many sisters and brothers as possible, to as many family and friends who can truly benefit from the actual message of Islam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and so that we can evoke the beautiful light, the lantern of light that exists within each one of us. So inshallah, we make good use of that. Inshallah, moving on to our discussion today, we have a respected, esteemed guest who is joining me today. I would like to briefly introduce her. We have Khanum Amber Zahra, who will be joining us. She is an Islamic scholar, licensed mental health practitioner and philanthropist, known worldwide for her social improvement projects, lectures, and Islamic subject matter expertise. She's been with us on Lantern of Light podcast programs previously as well, and she has given us a lot of guidance and a lot of insightful wisdom. So inshallah, once again, we would like to welcome her on board today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Amber Zahra, Jazakumullah, thank you so much for joining me once again today. Adamallahu ujurana wa ujurakum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our qaleel ibadat as well. And thank you for being a part of Lantern of Light's Muharram podcast today. Hope you're keeping well, inshallah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for inviting me, and inshallah, we will have some deep conversation regarding the month of Muharram and how we can learn different lessons out of this immense experience that we are going through these days in our lives.
Yes, absolutely. So, sister, I think the first question that I would like to begin with is that How do you personally connect with the events of Karbala during Muharram? For someone like you and me, especially when we are attending these majalises on a daily basis, we're listening to the Masaib and the Gham Bayan and everything. So, how can yourself and myself connect with the events of Karbala, and what lessons can we derive from these daily majalises?
Yes, this is a very good question, but it's a very grand question as well, because there are different dimensions to this question. So, as far as the lessons we can derive from Karbala, the events of Karbala, and different personalities who participated in this event. So it's tremendous, it's immense, and we cannot say much about it. Even though if we can just keep saying and saying and saying and talking about it. But to start with the lessons, what I personally connect with is how I see Karbala in the light of Quran. So when we see in Quran there is a small surah, Surah Asr. So when I see Karbala, so I personally relate that it's a lot relatable, and it's kind of a practical summary of this surah in the event of Karbala, or you can say the practical depiction of the surah. So when Allah says, "Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr," so by the time man is indeed is in loss. So when it means that the majority is in loss. So we see in Karbala that majority is on the evil side, and minority was on the righteous side. So, and also when Allah says, "Lazina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr." So, except those who have faith and do righteous deeds and enjoin and advise one another to follow the truth, and enjoin one another to follow the truth, and to have patience, and also advise them each other to have patience. So this is also one of the things that we can see practically being done in Karbala, even before 10th of Muharram, at the day of 10th of Muharram, and after the day of 10th of Muharram, how all the family members who were remaining there after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his companions, and they were being imprisoned, they were captives, but they were the practical form of this surah. They were there having faith, doing all the righteous deeds, and they were advising each other and empowering each other by advising them to follow the truth and to have patience. So this is something very deeply connected with Karbala. So if we don't have this event in the history, we can say that we won't be having this tremendous explanation or practical explanation of this surah. So this is something I deeply connect through Karbala and the event of Karbala. And similarly, one very famous ayat from Surah Insan that is being devoted to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that when he was ready to give his soul in the pathway of Allah, so the ayat that has been connected with him, Ya ayyuhal nafsul mutmainna irji'i ila rabbika radiyatal mardiya. So that ayat is also very much profound and deep in meaning, that how Imam Hussein alayhi salam was all set and all ready to sacrifice his life in the pathway of Allah. Even though he has sacrificed all his family members, all his precious things, his belongings, his um, even his children, his sons of every age, they were in, and also his companions. So this is something very deep and very profound, that how we can learn selflessness from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, how we can attain that higher level of nafs, although it is a a great level. If we even achieve the level of nafse lawama, going beyond from the normal nafs we have, but
Yes.
having the status of nafse mutmainna is the ultimate destination of each moment. And again, this is the practical depiction of Imam Hussein alayhi salam at the day of Ashura, that we have someone in practical, presenting in front of us the practical explanation of this ayat. Otherwise, we won't be able to understand this theory in the practical form. So these are something great examples we can relate to while we try to derive lessons from the event of Karbala.
Yes, absolutely. Very beautiful, as you said. This surah, Suratul Asr, actually encourages and actually gives us the gist that how they endured through hardship, patience. There was a lot of sabr. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ وَتَوَاصَوْا and with haqq, they chose the right path of haqq. And I just want to mention about two personalities, two female personalities, who are not very like often, in the sense they're not very much highlighted during these masaib. But I want to talk about the grief and pain that they went through. And I'm talking about Bibi Fatima al-Sughra, the daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the sick daughter who was left back in Medina. She was too ill to travel and too young to understand about what really happened in Karbala. So she waited and waited, and every sound of hoof beats and every glance at the door, every night without news was an ache that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could witness and understand. Like, this is that situation that when you don't know what's happening in a certain location. It could be your parents are maybe stuck in a situation, your siblings, your someone very dear and close to you, and you are not there to witness the situation, but you know that something really bad is going to befall on them, a calamity is going to fall on them, and so that person is already grieving. In fact, it's far much more painful. The silence is much louder because they don't know what to anticipate or what's happening at that moment. They're just thinking about it. And that really affects a person emotionally, psychologically, and mentally. And so when I was reading about this daughter, who is also known as Fatima al-Alila, because obviously she was quite ill, we see that she also endured that patience throughout this event of Ashura and Karbala. And she also went through that phase of patience throughout, not knowing what's happening to her brother. For example, Janab Ali Akbar, in what state was her brother in when he passed away? In what state was Janab Ali Asghar alayhi salam? In what state was her father when he passed away? So looking into her patience also, we should take some inspiration. Now, moving on to our next question, is that in what ways can one cultivate a deeper sense of empathy and compassion for Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his companions alayhi salam?
Yes. When we see the personality of Imam Hussein alayhi salam from his childhood, he was um, he was from head to toe a symbol of love and compassion for each and every individual who come across his personality during his lifetime, even when he was a kid, when he was a young person, when he was an old person. So when people used to meet him, they used to say that he is the true picture of the love and compassion of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So and he used to have this in his personality. So having very helpful towards the needy and the poor, around him, and he used to be called Abul Masakin, like the father of the poor people. And he used to went to their houses with all the food items or whatever they needed at that time to provide them. So he was the provider to the poor people around him. And he was very um, calm, composed, and very, you can say, polite while they used to talk to him, and very polite in manner as well. But even though he had this stature, but when he used to sit in the gatherings, the people around him had such effect on them of his personality that they were not be able to raise their gaze in front of him or lift their eyes in front of him. He has such a tremendous, um, you can say, effect in his personality. So it's been narrated a lot many times in the historical incidents. And when we see him in the event of Karbala as well, although he was having this tremendous fight or sacrifice, but throughout that journey, we see that he was very compassionate and loving towards his companions as well as the enemies. So throughout the journey towards Karbala, he was inviting people towards the righteous path, and he was worrying about them and inviting them again and again and giving them the opportunity again and again to come towards the righteous path. So we see he had a lot many meetings with different people. We have Zuhair ibn Qayn, who used to belong to Damascus, who was not the part of, or who was not called as a lover of Ahlul Bayt, but it is because of the invitation and the explanation of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who he gave him in the meeting while having his journey towards Karbala, that he came at the side of Imam Hussein. He switched his side from Yazid to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And similarly, we have this incident of um, having meetings or confrontation by Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, and how he transformed himself by the immense effect of the personality of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And he was truly loving and compassionate throughout this journey. And when he saw when the Hur stopped him during the journey and asked him not to go any further. So during that time also, Imam Hussein didn't say anything. He just said that I can see that you and your companions and your animals are thirsty. So first have some water, and then we are going to talk about something else. So what a tremendous personality he had, that when people think about killing their enemies, Imam Hussein is taking care of them, providing them the water, the food, and taking care of them like the father of the nation, who he was, being an imam. And so we have such profound and deep emotional effects when we read through these incidents. And similarly, on the day of Ashura, we see that throughout the day, from the dawn till the time of Asr, Imam Hussein alayhi salam was there beside each and every companion. When it was the last time for them, the last moments of their life, Imam Hussein used to reach each one of them and used to put their heads on his lap, and used to have that compassionate and deep and loving conversation with them and consoling them. And it was not only with his relatives, it was with everyone, even with the slaves. We have the example of John. John was a slave, And when Imam Hussein reached him and put his head on his lap, John said that I am a slave, and there is a smell comes out of my body, and uh, I am inferior somehow. He said that, but Imam Hussein consoled him and he said that you are not inferior. You are among those who have the best of the smell of their body, and you are going to join Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Jannah, and inshallah you would remain with me in Jannah and will attain the highest status in the life hereafter, and gave him this, um, you can say, the good news in the last moments. And he was so compassionate and loving and devoted throughout this time. And although he was tired, and although he was the most thirsty person on that day, he was hungry, he was tired, he was um, having all those wounds on his body, but he was there on each and every moment for all his companions at that time. And again, also worrying about the enemies and giving the sermons again and again and again, and telling them that you still have got some time, you can come to the right side. And then in the end, we have another incident right before his martyrdom, when Shimr was ready to behead his head. So in Maqatil, or in the right history books, we have a very detailed explanation, or the incidents recorded about this time when he was all wound because of all the wounds. He came down and he was on the floor, and he was very weak at that time, and his eyes were closed. So people were worrying that either he's alive or not, first of all. And Umar ibn Saad was telling people again and again that somebody should move forward and just behead Imam Hussein. So, but people were kind of afraid also to go near him. So, one person, because of the greed and because of the uh, gifts and the money, uh, Umar ibn Saad offered at that time. So he came forward, and he was having a sword in his hand. So at that time, Imam Hussein just opened a little bit of his eyes and just gazed at him and said, "Just go away. I know that you are not my killer. You are not going to behead my head. So I don't want you to come near me, so that uh, you have you become part of gaining that azab." So he, at even in his last moments, he was worrying about other people. He was worrying about that person. So, and even when Shimr came, he similarly said these kind of sentences again to him, that maybe he would come towards the righteous path. But as we can see that he was the true form of the love and compassion, or the ultimate form a person can be, or a human being can be. But his enemies, on the contrary, are the most cruel form of the hatred and the evil a person or human being can be. So we have this contrast in the tragedy of Karbala, and we can learn so many lessons out of these examples.
Right, rightfully mentioned. And as you were mentioning, it was very heart wrenching to hear about every character, and really the masayib are very painful, very very painful. Like that, when we listen in our majalises, that how we want to always seek shafaat from Imam Hussein, and we want to seek that najat, that salvation from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and we see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, is the true salvation. Like, he's giving najat to people. He's actually telling people that, there is a chance for you. I was also listening to the Masaib the other day, that when Janabi Hur alayhi salam, presented his own son, right, in the battlefield, because the son himself requested Janabi Hur that, Baba, let me go first. And when that scene happened, and when the son was martyred, so Janabi Hur alayhi salam, rushed quickly on the call of his son. And at that time, of course, Janabi Hur was fine, because he was not wounded, he was not thirsty, he was not in the situation the way Imam Hussein was, of course. And before Janabi Hur even reached, what did he see? He found that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was already there before him. And as you gave very good examples of all these companions, that Imam Hussein was always the first one to be there, and he had the son on his lap, and he was consoling him. And on the contrary, he was telling Janabi Hur that, wow, what have you done? Why have you done this? How could you see your son being martyred? Like, that's like a young son in front of you. And we think about that situation, that when it was the time for Imam Hussein alayhi salam to go and reach Janabi Ali Akbar alayhi salam, as he was tortured on the field of Karbala. And it's so painful that there was nobody at that time, and Imam Hussein, being that old father, uh, you know being in his worst condition, was the only one there. So, very rightfully mentioned, Khanum, that Imam Hussein was really an epitome of compassion and empathy, really. The next question is that, in what ways can social gatherings and connections during Muharram enhance one's spiritual experience and sense of belonging?
Yeah, this is a very important question, especially when the time goes by and we see that the young generation is not that much connected with Azadari or with the majalis we have or the gatherings we have. They don't participate that much. So it is very important that we bring in front of them the importance of Azadari and how it's been established, what sacrifices we have made as a nation, as a lovers of Ahlul Bayt, to establish this Azadari. If they understand that, then they would be able to have that connection with Azadari, and they would be able to reap the benefits of being part of those social gatherings. So the thing we need to understand that it's not easy. It was never easy to establish Azadari at the very first place. Even right after the event of Karbala, in the time of fourth Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, it was very restricted to meet Imam. It was very difficult. People were not able to gather around Imam. uh, Imam was not free to talk about the event of Karbala. So it was not at all easy to establish Azadari. But Imam Sayyida Sajjad and Sayyida Zainab Salamullah Alaiha and all other ladies who came back from Karbala, they took each and every opportunity to bring forward all the tragedies they had in that period of time while they were in Karbala and during the journey while coming back from Karbala. So we see even after that time, it was restricted to having Azadari. You were not, no one was free to have the Azadari or Majalis in their houses. Even it was announced, it used to be announced by the um, government that if you have a gathering or Azadari or Majlis in your house, one of the youngest person or the youngest boy in your home would be beheaded. And people used to give this sacrifice to have this Hosseiniya gathering in their homes. And there was one lady who sacrificed her 10 sons for having Ashray Majalis in her house. Such a tremendous sacrifice that we cannot even think of matching in today's time. So this is how they cultivated this azadari. This is being cultivated with the blood of our ancestors. And similarly, we have the examples of having cut their hands, having cut their legs, when they used to go for azadari, having majalis at their houses, or even for going for ziyarat. So when they used to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, there used to be people at the checkpost, and they used to ask them to either the youngest person among two people to be beheaded, or they would ask them to cut their hands. And people used to go by sacrificing their hands, by sacrificing their feet, and even they used to go every year. And there was one old lady who came at the checkpost, and she was there to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So the soldier asked him to bring her hand in front so that it could be cut. So she brought forward her left hand. So he said that you are trying to be clever and trying to save your right hand. So she just took out her right hand out of the abba and said that it's been cut last year. And now I'm here to come once again and just cut it quickly so that I can go and visit the grave of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So this was the emotion, and this was the sacrifice our ancestors have given. And this is how we have cultivated azadari, and this is how we have cultivated the ziyarah of Karbala. So these things need to be told to young generations again and again, so that they understand the importance of this blessing we have among us with in the form of azadari. So this is
Very true.
something very big, such a tremendous gift, such a tremendous blessing that has been given to us by Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So
Yeah.
we should take each and every opportunity to bring these things in front of people. And one more thing, when we say that, how can we have, what are the ways of having social connection, and how can we elevate our spiritual experiences through these gatherings? So one thing we need to understand, that it is collective ibadah. It is a form of ibadah that is supposed to be done collectively. It cannot be done individually. We cannot reap the benefits if we try to do it individually. We cannot have the same effect. We cannot have that spiritual uplift until we gather together. And this is a deep philosophy of Azadari, that we come outside of our homes and we gather collectively, because this is something required for the Zahur of 12 Imam, um, for the end of times. It's being required that we need to come out of our houses, and we come together collectively. And this is how we are being trained to do so. And alhamdulillah, by all forms of azadari we are trained to do so, and we don't think twice before coming out of our house to gather to mourn for azadari. And this should be cultivated more and more in younger generations, by making them understand the philosophy behind all these actions that we do in the form of azadari.
Yeah, absolutely. You are so right. And there's just another it's like a message for even myself and for all the young mothers and the youngsters. As you said, that the ancestors and so many people have sacrificed their lives for this azadari. Even when we hear about arba'in ziyarat, it was never like open. During Saddam's time, for example, like people were killed, they lost their lives. So today, if we go to these majalises, the most common issue that we're facing is the language barrier. For example, youths complain that please change these majalises to English. We don't understand Urdu, we don't understand Gujarati, we don't understand, our traditional mother tongues. So, like, I think we should focus on this area rather than complaining, because
Yeah.
of course, to understand it from our mother language, our traditional languages, it makes a far more different effect. The masaib has a different effect, the everything has a different effect, and we don't want to lose our heritage and our culture at the same time. Yes, we want the youths, of course, to not get distracted, and it's not like we want to force them as well. It's not a pressure or something, but we need to encourage this within our children. Like, even I'm facing this challenge with my daughter. She's quite young, she's 5, but still, like, picking on the Urdu language is quite difficult for her from this age, and so I sometimes worry that how will I be able to make her adapt, because I don't want her when she grows up and she becomes like a full Western person, and she's only understanding English language. So we, as young mothers, we have to start this from the very beginning. We need to train them. We need to teach this language. We need to speak this language within our homes from the very early stages, so that our children know Arabic, Urdu, Farsi, and of course English, and all these languages. We should be multilingual. We should be, especially when we are propagating the message of Imam Hussein, we should be able to translate it in as many languages as possible. So yes, absolutely, it's a very good point that you mentioned for the youths. They should know that what were the sacrifices that were given. Now, I have another very interesting question, Sister Amber, and this is to do with our spiritual leaders today, our scholars, on seeking the correct guidance and knowledge. So, what role do spiritual leaders, scholars, and mentors play in guiding individuals on their spiritual journeys during Muharram?
I think the effect is immense because in each and every individual's life, we can connect with uh, multiple scholars throughout our lives, or at least one or two leaders or mentors, or you can say scholars we have in our lives, which with whom we have deep connection, either in our childhood, either in our youth, or later in our lives, that we feel connected, or we feel like sometimes it is so immense that, like, when I was in my childhood, it was like there was one very, very renowned scholar back there in Pakistan, and I was so used to listening to his majalis during these 10 days of Muharram, that when I got married and I had to change the city, so it was very hard for me to connect with Azadari, with other people reciting majalis, because I was so in tune with his Majalis, his lecture, and how he used to give his scholarly guidance through the philosophy of Azadari in Karbala. So uh, it's kind of common in everyone's life that wherever you spend your childhood, you have that kind of connection with the Azadari, that you feel fulfilled if you mourn in the same way. If you don't have this opportunity, you feel like something is missing. So and scholars and spiritual leaders and mentors, they have a tremendous role when we are talking about this thing, because everywhere we have speeches, we have gathering, we have majalis, so we listen to them and we connect with them. And the important thing is we need to understand that because nowadays there are, you can say, if not thousands, then there are hundreds of scholars who talk about on television, about Karbala on television, on social media, on YouTube, in real lifetime, in-person majalis, online majalis, everywhere there are people. But we cannot remember each and everything of everyone, but we should focus on picking up at least 1 to 2 points in each gathering where we go, because we cannot remember everything. Our minds are not being made in a way that we remember all the stuff. We only remember important things or those things that click to us. So we should just focus on those points. And if we try to make a diary or a notebook, or even on your smartphones, make a notebook or a note taking app you can use, where you just jot down those points, whatever you learn throughout these morning days. Then you have a good collection by the end of these ayam aza, that you are ready to reflect on after that, and to ready to implement those lessons in your daily lives. So this is how I see that spiritual leaders and scholars and mentors have their effect in the lives of individuals through the spiritual journey they have.
Yes, good points again, very rational ones. Hopefully we can, really apply these practical points in our lives. And absolutely, as you said, our childhood really has a deep effect, like especially the childhood that, you've spent in a certain country with certain people, certain Jamaat people, during Muharram. It remains forever in your mind. The even the food, the niyaz that you've had, बचपन से जैसे हलीम होता है बहुत फेमस, एंड दोज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स. तो वो चीजें, शरबत भी एक होता है स्पेशल, वो चीजें हमेशा के लिए जहन में रह जाती हैं. सो इट्स वेरी ट्रू, व्हेन यू मूव अब्रॉड और समथिंग, those thoughts and those feelings, they still linger in your mind and head.
Yeah.
So from
And this is
childhood,
very important that we give our children this enriching experience. Their
yeah, I
experience of
agree with you.
Azadari should be very rich. The
Very
more we
rich, true.
give them the experience, the more they are going to feel connected later in their lives.
Well said, well said, sister. Okay, so now let's talk about sustaining momentum, during this spiritual month. Okay, how can the spiritual momentum and reflections during Muharram be sustained not only during Muharram and Safar, but throughout the year?
Yeah. So if I connect with the previous answer that I have given, so as I have said, that just you keep a notebook or a notepad where you keep all those points, whatever you have learned throughout these morning days. So this is one point. And another point that's very important, and also I have implemented in my life, and I have seen a lot many benefits out of that. So as we see, the Muharram is the first month of Islamic calendar. New Islamic year starts with the month of Muharram. And our new year, because of the great sacrifice of Karbala, our new year doesn't start only with mourning, but it starts with the knowledge of Quran, the wisdom of Quran and Ahlul Bayt. We learn a lot, and our year starts with this tremendous amount of knowledge and wisdom around us. So if we dedicate each and every month of our year to one imam. We have 12 imams and we have 12 months in a year. So if we dedicate 1 month to one imam and select one special characteristic or trait that we feel more connected with about that imam, and try to implement in our lives during that particular month. Let's, for instance, the first month is for Imam Ali, and he is famous for his knowledge and wisdom. So we focus on attaining more knowledge, gaining more wisdom, and having more reflection or deeper understanding of gaining the knowledge of Quran. So if we focus on that, similarly, like second month, we are dedicated to Imam Hassan alayhi salam. He is famous for his generosity, and we apply that trait of generosity in our lives. We give more each and every day. We do something special for implementing this trait in our lives. And similarly, for third month, it's we dedicated to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam is known for making sacrifices, or Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the true practical form of nafs mutmainna. So if we start working on elevating our level of nafs, how we can do that, we start learning that, we start implementing that. So it's just endless. And by the end of the year, by the end of this year and coming of the next year, next Muharram, we would be the best version of ourselves, or you can say the upgraded version of ourselves, or we can say I would be Khanam Amberzera 2.0 by that time, or next year 3.0. So every year a new version or a better version of ourselves would be coming out. So if we try this thing and try to implement that in our lives, so we are going to grow as much as possible, and skies are the limit then.
Beautiful response and a very beautiful way to apply this, throughout the year. I never thought about it in this way, the way you've, put it out. Very nice. Like, we are going to connect every month with an imam and his special characteristic. And what a beautiful way of, doing that throughout the entire year. Like, you're keeping yourself away from sins. You're focusing on the Husseini lifestyle, and, you are like really fulfilling that momentum of Muharram throughout the year.
Because there are
Jazakumullah
two
so much.
last
Sorry.
thing
Yes.
before we leave.
Yes.
That because we have Masumin alayhi salam, and their personalities are so immense that sometimes we feel overwhelmed, because they are so good
Yes.
and there are so many good traits that we feel overwhelmed that how we are going to implement those in our lives, or how we can be closer to them. So if we focus on one or two traits, that makes it easier for us to focusing on those things. And also when we are dedicating 1 month to one imam, so we are going to learn about that imam during that particular month, and that's also going to give us a tremendous opportunity to raise our marifa, our knowledge about that particular imam.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Khanam Amber, for being on the show and for sharing your insightful wisdom with us. There were such excellent points that you mentioned, even delving into the events of Karbala, highlighting some of the companions, the characters, what lesson can we take from. Then you spoke also about the empathy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and we talked about the momentum of how to sustain the month, the Azadari and the values of Muharram throughout the year, and how to achieve that nafse mutma'inna qualities within us. So I would really like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and give you more tawfiq and accept your efforts and your time, inshallah. Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you.
It was pleasure coming on board, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, and may Allah bless you with all the tremendous blessing He has.
Jazakallah. Thank you to all our viewers for tuning on today's program. Please make sure to like the program and keep sharing it to as many as you can, for the love of Abu Abdullah Hussein and Bibi Zainab Salamullahi alayha. And hopefully we can learn a lot from our daily majalises and Hussainiyas and such spiritual doses from our Lantern of Light podcast. This is your host Sakina Habib signing off. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.